Oh, we will get to hear the music.
I made it happen. I made it happen. Am I this mic? Yep.
Hey, everybody! I had to do that live, right?
You did. You had to do that live. You did.
Welcome to another episode of Defense of the Patience. I'm Cyphus. I'm recording live from Royal Gaming Cafe in Seattle at the Dota 2 International 2016. Here with my co-host Roland.
Keep it rolling.
You could have come up with something better for TI.
Keep it rolling.
And a very special guest. We're so excited to have him here. Another, as Roland was saying before the show started going, formative guest for DotP. One of our earliest, one of the best ever, our favorite, Nahaz.
Hey guys, glad to be here.
It's a lot of fun to have you. So you came to the event, obviously working as a coach for Complexity.
Yep.
They didn't have the results that you probably were hoping for.
Oh, a little bit rough, yeah. We had a rough wild card phase, and unfortunately did not play in the main event. But it was a great.
It's because it was rigged, just like the election's
Sure
going to be
was.
rigged in November. Okay, it was rigged.
Us not banning Nepo was definitely rigged.
No, it was rigged. It was rigged, but we can move on.
So I mean, how's Complexity handling everything? Are they just enjoying the event? Are they getting it? Are they watching replays? Are they prepping for the next year? How are they kind of taking all of this?
I think a little bit of all of that. This event is obviously, saying it's the biggest event of the year is a little bit of an understatement. This is the event that everybody works for and strives for. It's, you look at the prize pool being bigger than all the other events of the year combined, and that even doesn't really reflect the import of this event in the players' minds and in the fans' minds. And so when you come to this event and you put that level of work in and you don't play up to that level of preparation, it's not something you get over in a couple of days.
Yeah.
So we're all enjoying the event. It is really good to be here, but at the same time it's still very sad.
Yeah, kind of bittersweet.
Is there tension on the team?
Oh, I mean, yeah, for sure. There's always, when you compete at this level and when you put this much energy and dedication and passion and resources into preparing and you lose, there's tension. There's just no getting around it. I guarantee you, OG is as tight a group of guys and as wonderful a group of guys as you ever will meet. Seeing that team interact with each other is a joy, but I guarantee you there's some tension on that team tonight because the stakes are that high.
It was just back to back to back to back to. I don't believe in Miracle anymore. I do believe in him. I believe in him, but like I did it the night before, like I believe in Miracle. Now it's like I believe in TNC.
I don't know.
Believe in Jimmy.
I believe in Demon. Yeah, I believe in Demon. I believe in Demon.
So
since I became a demon.
You sexy thing.
For everybody who may not know, because I mean you were kind of hired on for your stats background. We can't imagine why.
Yeah.
Well, about that actually.
But I mean, so what was your role as a coach on the team? Because I think a lot of people, in Twitch chat, had their fun at your expense. Those bastards.
And I defended you 1,000 times.
Oh, no.
You assholes, enter. You assholes,
But I mean,
enter.
so what was the thinking with bringing you on board? Because we had Gorgon here last night, and he was kind of talking about how statisticians are playing a big role in, identifying team patterns. Was that kind of what you were doing, or were you more hands-on with the team?
So, interestingly enough, my response when Complexity first asked me to fill this role was, "Are you crazy?" But they actually talked me into it, and part of how they did it was by pure happenstance, because I happen to know Kyle Swindles pretty well. Back at the Manila Major, I happened to sit in on a few of their scrims, and this was a team that, they were top 6 at Shanghai. They were top 3 at Epicenter, knocked EG out of the tournament. They looked like a team on the rise, and they came into Manila, and there were some problems. They had some fundamental communication problems. A lot of the things that they've been doing well as a team were not happening anymore. And I watched a few of their scrims and said, look, guys, your problems right now are not. It's not deep strategy. It's not statistics. It's you're not doing the things that once made you very successful as a team. And so when they contacted me to ask me to coach them for TI, they said, look, we don't. We know you're not a 7K player. We know you're not going to, tell us how to play our lanes or move our heroes. But we think you're going to help us communicate better as a team and play better with each other. And that's what I tried to do with them. And it was It was a great experience because obviously it was a team that was going through some adversity, but they were and are true professionals, and they approached the game in a very serious way. They followed through on things. Our scrims were very, very productive, but you can replicate a lot of things in practice. You can't replicate the pressure of playing for $20 million. And at the end of the day, we had 3 players that were playing at their first TI, and we as a unit, not singling anybody out, but as a unit, we did not respond well to the pressure.
What about the sibling factor with the team?
Yeah.
Do you think that plays any amount of role in this, or should that just be overlooked completely?
It's hard to separate it, but I think it's any team that's playing together at this level for that amount of time, there are personal interactions and rivalries that come into play. Is the fact that we have 2 groups of siblings on the team and then one guy who's Swedish and knows the one group of siblings really well and has played with all of them back in Hein. I think most of the teams that play at a high level all have histories together at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that.
It's true, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. My big brother is. Oh, Andrew's not here, but playing Dota with him is miserable. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Zach would say the same thing about Kyle right now, but I don't think
he's
so.
the older brother. He's better than me, no matter what happens, no matter what my KAD is. If he's doing poorly, it's my fault.
Sure.
Somehow,
But if
So
you
I
guys
couldn't
could
even
just get
imagine.
your shit together, you could be Complexity.
All right. Wow, usually it's me that fucks things up.
Usually it's
Can
me.
somebody bring me another beer?
But no, so speaking of that pressure, I mean, do you think that's maybe what's kind of going into potentially OG's play? Because we saw them just dominate the majors, it felt like, with the exception of Shanghai. And they kind of came into TI, and I think it's kind of like last year. Everybody was talking about secret. And I think OG was kind of on the tips of the tongues for just about everybody else. I mean, they had an impressive tournament finish right before TI. I mean, do you think that pressure of the main stage is maybe what we're seeing when we see like OG kind of falling apart like we did today?
No, not at all. I think the story with OG is very simple. I think they ran into an MVP team that is extraordinarily dangerous on land. People are very quick to forget that they were the team that knocked Liquid out of the upper bracket in their opening match at the main event in Manila. This is a team that, because of the way they play, and because they are such a different team when they play on land versus online, they're very difficult to prepare for. And so that result to me was not all that surprising. And honestly, they just ran into a TNC team today that was just so well prepared for what they do. If you look at what TNC and Jimmy, in particular Demon, were drawing on the minimap in the first game of that series, they knew OG's warding spots. They knew their rotation patterns. Demon had this ridiculous next-level ward juke by the top Tier 1 tower where he gets a haste rune. He basically goes and does a lap around the tower, and OG blows 2 sentries because they think he put down an Abs ward. Demon, in that game, he got 7 D wards and held a geometry site for 15 minutes in a game against OG. That just doesn't happen. And to me, that goes to show that the level of play is so high right now. There's so much talent in the scene that if somebody is that well prepared for what they do, they're going to have a really good chance to beat you.
So with Demon's team, I mean, I didn't expect it. I don't follow the scene nearly as closely as you do, but was this something that you were expecting,
No.
TNC to go this far?
Oh,
and
no.
play this
No
level?
one expected it. But I think there were a number of comments made that were very, very good about how TNC is a Drow team. They were a team that was having Drow banned against them before Drow was in the meta. And they're a team that understands a hero very well from both sides, and that was very pivotal in both games. In Game 1, they beat OG's Drow, and in Game 2, they won with their Drow-Huskar combo. But I think at the end of the day, TNC were the better prepared team, and they played better. And the talent gap right now, we've been saying this for months of the last couple of tournaments, the talent gap right now is so small that, OG is probably the most talented Dota 2 team overall, and they probably have the most talented player on the planet. But that is not going to win you championships anymore. You 2 years ago, you could come into this event with 5 TI championship caliber players and have a very good chance of winning the event. Right now, the level of play is such that 5 TI championship caliber players do not make a TI championship team.
Which is insane. Do you think that that played against them? Because they're obviously conscious of that. They know Miracle's the best. They know he's probably one of the better players in the world. Do you think that hurt them going up against TNC? Like, oh, this is nothing. We're going to move on to losers bracket. It sucks we're in losers bracket. Or do you think they were just, holy shit, these guys are good?
No, I honestly, I think they got out prepared. And I honestly believe if you ask Tal, if you ask Fly, 2 days from today, what happened, he would say the better prepared team played better and won. Period.
Why were they better prepared? Like, we were all expecting. I wanted the OG to win. It was a cool story, major TI. It would have been a cool story. I wanted him to win. Like, his dad came up with like a form of martial arts,
right.
didn't he? Like, how can they be underprepared?
Well, at this point, there is a lot of tape on OG, and
gotcha.
OG they've adapted very well to the different metas. A lot of people made the horrible mistake, I thought, after Frankfurt of calling them a one-patch team. Well, guess what? They clearly weren't. Yeah. They're a two-patch team, guys. But the fact of the matter was they came into this tournament doing things that were very similar to what they had shown at a lot of different events, and other teams were clearly ready for it. And they're still very, very good. This is a team that still looked dominant throughout the majority of the group stage. But the fact is, you get to this event and you lose to best of 3, or in some cases a best of 1 series, and you're out.
Yeah, for sure.
Rest in peace.
So let's see. We also had DC, of course, today. They've been looking pretty strong. What do you think their chances are, kind of moving forward?
I thought LGD were a team that was probably going to go out a little early. I was kind of sad and a little bit surprised that Secret didn't beat them. LGD, of course, were forced to play with their coach, Banana, who is himself a TI championship player. Mm-hmm. Don't forget he won TI4 with Newbie. But they were forced to play with him in place of September. And they only had a week of practice coming in. And they were running mostly the same stuff with Banana that they had with September. And as a result, they're a very passive team. They went through pretty long periods where they weren't doing things across the map. And I think in game 1 against DC, you saw DC understood and really took advantage of that. They fifth picked the Naga Siren, and Resolution is a player on a lot of different heroes, and especially Naga, that if you don't make him feel that pressure in the mid game, if you are passive for periods of 5 or 10 minutes on the map, he's going to be at your base in 2 lanes at once. And that's exactly what happened.
But do you think? So you think they just kind of went up against LGD, and maybe that was kind of a foregone conclusion before it ever began? They had a pretty strong group stage performance. That last game we talked about on the show, like that last game against eHome, was pretty damn incredible,
spectacular.
They're a very good team, and they play. My criticism of DC before this event was DC, and I'm not going to comment. Of course, we played a lot of scrims against them, and I can't comment on what teams were playing in scrims, but I can comment that even if you just look at their match record in previous tournaments, they ran a lot of different things. They were capable of playing a lot of different heroes, but they were kind of, in some ways, the jacks of all trades and masters of none. I think coming into this tournament, they had a little bit more defined idea of what they want to do. They've run a slightly smaller set of lineups. They just looked a little bit more focused. And I think in both cases, for very different reasons, mind you, but in both cases with the series that we're talking about, TNC beating OG and DC beating LGD, the team that won came in with a very clear idea of how they were going to beat the other team.
Right.
DC said, look, this LGD team is just, without September, they are not nearly as active around the map. We can punish that. We can pick lineups that in the mid-game, if they aren't pressured, are really going to be able to claim a lot of real estate around the map. Yeah. And they won doing that. And that's what I really love about Dota nowadays, is that there's always going to be plenty of room in the game for individual skill and individual great players to distinguish themselves, but the talent gap is small enough, and the pool of possible heroes and strats, over 100 different heroes picked in the group stages alone, it's large enough that it's really the team that has a plan for how they're going to win.
Yeah.
As simple as
Or
it
how to
sounds.
shut Huskar down, right? One of the two.
Hey.
Or Drow, I guess. Or Ogre is... and then Drow, yeah. They're all,
And Drow, yeah.
They're all...
No, but
They're all pretty good.
Drow's beatable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Drow does not. If there's a hero of the tournament so far, the hero of the tournament is Mirana, right?
Yeah.
That Ags though.
Mirana Ags is ridiculous.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean we
Like
saw
when
that.
I look at that Ags, like
Yeah, we saw that, and
there's
that's
junk in that Ags.
I felt good for DC that they were able to take advantage of that a little bit in the deciding game today against LGD. When yesterday that third game against Wings yesterday, of course Wings ran the Techies Purge and made us all happy. But in the third game, DC yesterday, DC looked very good, and all of a sudden Blink got his Ags on Mirana and just gets in the middle of the fight, and that's like a 1K spell all of a sudden.
I know.
With Starstorm, but they were able to take it's just ridiculous.
Who said quadruple? Somebody was
Quad
like
Starstorm's like 1050. Right?
yeah, they're like quadruple in any context.
Yeah,
In
okay.
Dota 2 is ridiculous.
Well, and
In
that's
any context, quadruple is ridiculous.
and not just
Yeah.
quadruple. That's actually what we saw happen in the first game, Alliance versus eHome this morning. I thought Alliance had a really good draft. They got their Bristle back. They got their Coddle. This is a lineup that they're
That
very.
got me to
they're
2K,
Ogre
by the
Magi.
way. Bristle Coddle. He was the Coddle, I was the Bristle, and I pressed W, and he gave me mana.
It is-
And it was like
it's
all the way
legit.
to 2K.
It's
Just
legit.
www, man, www.
It would be sad if it wasn't
Yeah.
100% the truth.
It's the truth. I got the 2K.
It's not
off
sad
that.
at all.
And the pros are doing it now, and I'm like, hey, a little bit of money, something like that would be nice.
It's one, but it's exactly the reason. One of my pet peeves is like you call something cheese in Dota right now. Like everything's cheese. I mean, OS Frog.
A year ago, you wouldn't have said Elder Titan was cheese, but now you're like, fuck that hero. Every fucking game with his spirit stomping, sleeping. Who does that?
Lots of
And
teams.
like we go into the Battle Cup and we're like, we're gonna get Elder Titan. Like a year ago,
you just
we
know.
definitely could have got Elder Titan. You know what I mean? And now it's like top pick. What? Okay, we're gonna stop for a second and we're gonna get some questions from the crowd. So we Cyphus and I have had the luxury of knowing Nahaz, and Nahaz, we don't know what to do about this, or Nahaz, we don't know what to do about this, and he's answered it for us. So I'm going to put him on the spot and let you guys ask Nahaz a question. Do we have any takers right off the bat that has a question
Will
for
you
Nahaz?
do the job for us, please?
That's not what I'm going for. And let's get some time in. Let's get 10 minutes. Chaos. All right, come over. Let's give you a microphone. Let's hand him that microphone. You can talk right into this.
What do you see of the future for statistical analysts in Dota teams? Do you think that what we're doing right now is kind of a trend we're going to continue on, or do you think there's going to be some sort of major shift in how statisticians and data analysis is used in improving Dota teams?
Chaos with the first good question on DotP.
Yeah.
Damn.
Have you read Reddit recently?
That's like the softball, man. I love that question.
That was nice.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both actually. If you look at how far the game has come just in the last couple of months, going into the Shanghai Major, it was relatively unusual even for a team to have a coach. Only a handful of teams came in.
And they're not allowed in booths for drafting purposes, right?
Which is a fact I've had to explain to Roland.
I was like,
7
no,
times.
they're allowed in booths, you idiot, Denny.
7
What do
times.
you think?
Oh my God.
I know Nahaz, okay? Like the ultimate and then I looked it up and it's like, no, they're not, because the draft. You'd be in there like Meepo Bam, right?
Son, thou shalt not take my name in vain. That's on a stone tablet somewhere. But no, I think if you look at just how far we've come in terms of coaches from Shanghai, only a couple teams. People saw how quickly Fnatic were able to improve from 2 weeks before Shanghai. Fnatic's drafts made no sense. Their bans were awful. And they came into Shanghai and all of a sudden they looked like a team that really had purpose in their drafting, had a lot of structure to what they were running. And all of a sudden now coming into TI, almost all the teams have a coach in some form or another. And I think the same thing is going to happen with statistical staff. Fnatic, again, is kind of on the cutting edge with using KIPS. There are a lot of other teams now that have analysts. DC uses PyCat as kind of their mechanics coach. Uses Loomden as sort of their analyst. But the most important thing also, the second part of the question was, do you think that the way in which we use statistics will change? And that's another easy yes, because the thing you need to understand about coaches is that the roles that coaches serve are very, very different across different teams. Because the notion of a coach is so young, and because these teams are so different in their approaches to learning and getting better, what I did with Complexity will be very different from what Mad did with OG. And in fact, I give Mad a lot of credit. I had a conversation with him at Manila. It was clear that he really was enjoying that role, and it was clear that it might be something I might want to do. And he said to me at Manila, he's like, look, I went into this and I said, I have zero expectations about what I want to do. I want to do what I feel the team needs me to do to get better. And that was very much the philosophy that I took into it. And I think it's going to be the same thing when you talk about statistical analysis going forward. The information, there are certain things like smoke timings, like ward maps that every team is going to want to have. And I am a big believer. I can't promise anything yet, but we have something in the works. I very much want to make that information available to everybody for free.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's also room for a lot of advanced analysis. But the specific types of analysis that are going to make different teams better is very different. And so the thing that we need is a lot of people that are into quantitative analysis that know Dota and that are able to tailor that kind of information to what this particular team needs to get better.
For sure. All right. Anybody else have a question for Nahaz?
Oh, okay. Yeah, fine.
Okay. Yeah, Proud's next. Yeah. He reserved it.
So with this season, we're seeing the first use of deep neural networks and AI to attempt to predict team victories and such things. Do you think that Dota is a game like chess or Go that if we give enough time to a computer, we can get essentially an empirical solution to, let's say, even a drafting phase? Or do you feel there's too much human emotion almost involved in drafting? Yeah.
I really asked, can IBM make a computer that will outdraft anybody?
The answer to that question is no. And the reason for it is actually very simple, that Dota is by far the largest dimensional strategy space of any game that I've ever attempted to analyze. And this is it's actually one of the questions that I had in mind, one of the reasons that I wanted to try my own hand at the coaching role. In the current meta, and again, this is still a meta that hasn't settled down in many respects, but in the current meta, the pool of viable heroes, strategies, and itemizations that are viable is so large that the limiting factor really is practice time. A given team only has so many scrims to be able to run different strategies that they think are good. And so what constitutes, this is one of my biggest pet peeves when we talk about panels, what constitutes a good draft for one team does not necessarily constitute a good draft for another team. Like this idea that you can look at 10 heroes right now in Dota and tell me who won the draft without knowing the two teams involved, I think that's totally wrong. And so, no, I don't think the sort of deterministic, I think that there's some value to be gained for that approach, and I think that's one of the things that Knoxville's worked on for a while. I think that such a draft engine could be informative in some respects, but do I believe that the next Deep Blue is going to come along and win the International? No, I do not.
Awesome. Next question from Proud himself.
Okay, so we see
Animal.
The animal.
All right, so when people are drafting, they want to pick up something that's flexible in the first phase. So you get like Timbersaw or Mirana in the past, like Vengeful Spirit, that sort of thing, which used to be around as a core. Is there like anything hard statistically that drastically kind of tilts one hero? Like, I mean, maybe we'll play Timbersaw mid, but for the most part, people are most interested in, like if they have a Mirana, they're not really going to try to roam it for the most part. Would you say that most heroes in general, when they're thought of as flexible cores, are a lot more tooled to one I guess, space to run them in? I guess that's it.
No, it's a very important principle when you're talking about drafting, is that there are two types of heroes that generally get There are three reasons that a hero generally gets picked in the first phase. One is that it's just ridiculously overpowered. Like think Earth Spirit around the era of Mars TV when he weren't like 34-2 or some ridiculous shit during that land. The second is that that hero operates in a position that is incredibly high leverage in the current game. And think about offlaners in the last couple patches, like the offlane position, partially because of Iron Talent getting introduced. The offlane position has been just incredibly high leverage. We have this ELO shift metric that's a statistical measure of like how much a particular hero contributes to wins and losses. And I believe in the last patch, I want to say something like 9 out of the top 15 and 7 out of the bottom 10. In that category, we're all offlaners. Like that position was just the highest leverage position, and so offlaners will generally get taken first. And the third reason, as you touched upon, were heroes that you can take that don't give away information. So Mirana, besides her ags just being ridiculous, is also a hero. Quad baby is also a hero that you can run in multiple lanes. You can run her as a core or a support. She's just very, very flexible. Nature's Prophet is another hero that's underrated in that regard. He can be run in the off lane or the safe lane. We even played around with a couple heroes that haven't even picked yet at this tournament in our openers because we believe that they could be run as cores or supports.
Which?
So
I mean,
again,
there's no secret
all right,
at this point, right?
Kyle's probably going to kill me, but we actually thought that Jakiro was actually a very viable opener. Because it turned out that 2 of our core players actually played Jakiro really, really well.
Okay, what makes a really good Jakiro player to somebody that's brand new listening? What is Jakiro doing that is just game changing?
The biggest thing, honestly,
ice balls and shit. I know, but macro.
No. Like, so back up to a minute to the example that I was talking about with the first game between Alliance and eHome today.
Great tangentializer.
How you win in Dota right now is you understand your lineup better than they understand their lineup and yours. So Alliance's big problem in the first game today, they had this Bristleback combo that looked like it was just going to crush, and they didn't realize that the combination of Undying's Veil, Undying's ult, and Soul Catcher, all of a sudden, like, people buy Silver Edge against Bristleback because you cancel out his passive, the damage reduction, and all of a sudden this Bristleback who feels insanely tanky is just like blown up. Well, all of a sudden he gets Veiled, he gets Undying ult, he gets Soul Catchered, and Bulldog is like standing in the front lines. I'm Bristleback, I'm tanky, I'm dead. And it's an example of eHome understood their lineup and when it was strong and why it was strong better than Alliance understood.
And we're talking about professionals here too, so like, it's marginal, right?
And Jakiro,
marginally better.
The thing that's the other
marginal
thing is
differences?
we're at the point. Dota in the last couple of years has really gone from the NCAA football to the NFL. Okay, awesome. The playing field is much more level. The edges are much smaller. You as a coach, as an analyst, as a captain, you work very, very hard to generate these really small edges. That's true within a game as well. And the thing about Jakiro is a much better 1v1 laner than a lot of people realize. Because of
free spells?
Because of Liquid Fire.
Okay,
it's like you just sit there. Jakiro can actually destroy DK in lane, for example.
Magic.
Because he just spams Liquid Fire.
Yeah, and then so you max Liquid Fire like a 1-1-4 or something like that, or 1.
This very quickly becomes like Coach Roland on how to play.
It's like, wait,
1v1 Jakiro.
I want to get 3K. Let's go on. So like Jakiro, but what's the build items I should buy?
It's very differently in the core support role. But the thing that we discovered we could do is we could put Jakiro in a 1v1 laning situation, and a lot of people wouldn't understand. First of all, wouldn't understand how strong the hero could be in that situation, and wouldn't understand how quickly that hero could push. It sounds really obvious, right?
But you're hitting all the creeps every time you hit E, so you're pushing the wave.
So it's the same reason, for example, that I really like. It's the same reason that I really like Morphling on Radiant right now. And it's because Morphling is a safe laner that if you leave him alone in his safe lane, like he will just go max agi and he'll just take that tower super early. He'll take the opponent tier 1 tower in his own safe lane at like the 5-minute mark. And if you're talking about the Radiant side, if you're taking the Dire tier 1 tower, the Dire bottom tier 1 tower at 5 minutes, like that's a huge advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Much more significant than Radiant top tier 1. So
because of some big guy, I've never killed him.
some big guy.
We have, in our pubs,
Yeah.
we can't get even close to getting in that pit.
He's
I've
got
gone
some,
in there
like,
before, but
he's got some item
he looks scary
on his forehead.
It's a big deal, but I'm always 6 iron branches, so I couldn't hold it anyway.
That's the build,
You know what
man.
I mean?
GG branches. They call them that for a reason.
Even a number of GGs.
Pro Dota tips here.
All right. Anybody else with a question for the one and only Nahaz? Oh, okay. Come on over. What's your name?
My name is Tony,
Tony.
and I am from Canada. I just came over here to enjoy the international.
Awesome.
And I have a question about, the current state of Dota right now is pretty beautiful. We see so many strategies coming out, a lot of diverse things coming out. But one of the things I feel like is lacking is kind of a big ulti strat right now. We don't have Spectre anymore. We don't have Zeus. We don't have Enigma barely. And I feel like Tidehunters even been kind of weak. Or even like Lion, someone with big ultis like that, or Lina have all been kind of pushed out of the meta. Why do you think? Is that because teams are expected to fight all the time? Is that, you can't just rely on big ultis, a combo anymore? Do you just have to fight? Is that why that's been pushed out?
I really love that question, and the answer is
Me too, because Nahaz does.
It's a couple of things. Okay, so it dates back to some of the changes that were made in the Wicked TI4 and later. There were a bunch of changes made to glyph cooldowns and to towers to discourage these death ball pushes. Okay, the problem with teamfight heavy lineups is they win that big fight. Okay, but you have to be able to sustain a push afterwards. Like, you really, to make a big team fight lineup work, you need to be able to win that fight, and you need to be able to take 2 towers.
So after
afterwards.
the ghosts come back, you need to be able to do something.
But there are relatively few heroes, because a lot of the changes, there are relatively few heroes that have those big team fight abilities and still provide a lot of push. And if you don't have a lot of push, it's very difficult, because of all the glyph cooldown changes, it's very difficult to deep push early on. So you have a lot of these Tide lineups that they'll win their big fight, they'll apply their wombo combo at like 12 minutes, and they'll win that big fight, but they get a tier 1 out of it. And it's like, okay,
cool.
And then they're giving up
and the
tier
respawn
1s.
timers are short. And
Right.
Yeah, okay.
They're giving up 2 tier 1s because then the other team knows that their wombo combo is down. And it's like those kills matter, but the fact that the other team then knows that it can go on the offensive without being punished for the next couple of minutes, that matters a lot. In this meta, you have to be always ready to fight, and B, when you do commit to a fight, you've got to be able to convert that into objectives afterwards.
So what's like a good word for this meta? Because I don't know. I've seen it short. I've seen it long. I can't give one word, but I bet you can.
Honestly, the one word is probably still unsettled.
Unsettled.
We have now had 2 patches. Toward the end of the Starladder event in Kiev, that was I believe the last days of 686. The meta still wasn't settled. There are still a lot of new things being run, and we've had 2 pretty not huge, but still substantial patches hit after that, leading up to the international. The meta still has not had time to fully settle down.
No, obviously not. I mean, these game lengths. It felt like this was more of a Tony. So they're like whispering it to me so I don't embarrass myself. Like what Tony said, it's more revolving around this team fight. Like, we can't wait 3 minutes. We can't wait for Enigma, you know what I mean? We can't do that. It seems like it's more like, you want an unlimited quiver.
I'm glad you mentioned Enigma, right? Because if you look at the teams recently, so Escape Gaming for a while, back when they were No Diggity, they had a lot of success with Enigma. And what's the big differentiating factor with Enigma? It's that besides that black hole, he has that Midnight Pulse, he has those Eidolons. He can actually sustain a push.
And high ground.
Yes.
Midnight Pulse was brought up as a good high ground defense, and I was like, Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a big circle.
Yeah.
And I can't go up
It
and
does
down.
a lot of
Well,
damage.
it really
in that
is.
area that you put it down on.
Area of effect spells.
It really. I'm a big believer right now in. It's partly the finance background. I'm a big believer in option value and in multiple win conditions. In that, I am a big believer in lineups that if they do fall behind in the mid game, have the ability to defend that high ground and prolong the game. So it's like they get an extra chance. That if the opponent makes a mistake, that they can scale and they can still win late. It's part of why, like Chaos Knight, I think he's a hero that has a lot of potential on paper, but he's really bad in practice because he's a hero that if he ever falls behind, has a really hard time catching up.
Okay, so people use. I'm going to sound like an idiot again, but I've got to do it for the people. On paper,
For the people.
like a Dota buff. Like, is that when you say like Chaos Knight's good on paper? Like statistically speaking, he's good, but like we haven't seen him be good.
It's a little
Is
bit
that
of-
like what's on paper?
It's a little bit of Dota buff, and it's a little bit of theory crafting.
Oh,
like
okay.
everybody, I mean, we all just love to do that. We all like
I know everybody
Boba-
says on paper. I'm just like, where? Like, I would love to see
Oh,
those.
no.
Could I see the paper?
I'd
Did
love-
I miss the
I'd love
paper?
each and every one. To,
No, those
to go
those
to
papers.
moment.
This message will self-destruct. I mean,
Roland's
this
the
is
kid who showed up to class and missed a
that-
handout
That
somewhere.
shit gets burned. I guarantee you. No, those papers are not available to the public. But in theory, when you theory craft lineups, Chaos Knight's an example of a hero. It's like, oh, hey, guys, illusion heroes are really good, guys.
And I won't
like,
get him till later. I'll
like,
get him at
you
like
get-
level 10 and 11.
You
know?
get Manta on that hero with a maxed out ulti, and you do his reality rift, and it's a free surround. Like, you can literally kill almost anything with that hero, but you have to think about Dota right now is, like I said before, it's about understanding power spikes. It's about understanding, hey, if I can get these couple items on these heroes at this time, my lineup at that time is way stronger than the enemy's team lineup, and so I'm going to be able to take those 2 towers or Roshans at this time. And then by doing that, they'll complete their items a little bit later, and they may be a little bit stronger, but we'll be able to hold out because we have that advantage in map control. We've delayed their timing. It's just you create these. You work very, very hard to create these sequence of little advantages that turn into big advantages.
Sure. And he's, I mean, Chaos Knight's hazed every single hero. I mean, he's paddling them, you know what I mean? Get in here. You're welcome to the fraternity
Thank you,
of
sir.
Dota
May I have
2.
another?
Quapow, quapow, quapow. You know?
That was Chaos Knight,
There-
social chair. He's damn glad to meet you.
Do we have any more questions for Nahaz? Anyone? Come on. Don't be shy.
I got one right here.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me
What's
if
your
I put
name?
it this close? Shrek 2 on DVD.
Shrek 2 on DVD.
And if
all
you
right.
decide that you like me after this, then you can get my real name.
Okay.
But,
I like you right now.
Alright.
But that's okay.
Man,
Keep going.
We'll see. Arguably, one of the best heroes right now has only been picked once in the tournament. I want to get your honest opinion and analysis as a player myself. Where's Techies going from here?
I no longer want to know your real name. Techies obviously has a lot of problems.
What about tiny techies? Where's Flub?
The-
Hell yeah, man! Did you hear? You've heard of it, where he throws and you
You've
stand
heard
on the
of it?
mine, and they blow up when they land
the
on
holy
you.
hand grenade of Antioch? Yes, I
Okay.
understand.
Yeah, Magnus.
No,
Horse staff.
Techies got what we not so lovingly refer to as the Tinker treatment, although Tinker is now back. Tinker pissed
in action.
Tinker pissed enough people off badly enough in previous betas that he was nerfed into the ground. And Techies, the problem with Techies is that he was a game prolonger. He was a hero.
Base defense.
Yeah, he was a hero that just made it impossible to push high ground.
His own category, I always put him in, because it's like you're adding to a map where usually you're taking away like trees.
So
You know what I mean? Like
there
you
was a
take things
stat
away,
for a
not add
while.
things to.
The average duration of a Techies game was something like 5 minutes longer. Which,
really?
when you're aggregating over hundreds of thousands of matches, it's a lot. And honestly, the closest analog that I could think of was when Earth Spirit first got added to Captain's Mode with his Ags. And
What does
Mad...
it do?
Mad...
Like the
Earth
derails
Spirit's
ads? I don't know what that does.
You guys get to watch it live.
Guys, we lost. And Mad was the one who's like, he's like, it's worse than Techies because of the distance from which, especially if there's like a force staff on the team, the distance from which he can grab a hero. I mean, we saw this in an actual competitive game where a gyrocopter got grabbed from just outside the bottom Radiant tier 3 tower, got grabbed all the way back to like 500 range of the fountain from Earth Spirit Ags and a force staff. And it's just like you can prolong the game almost indefinitely with a mechanic like that. Techies was the same way, and so the problem is it's just very difficult to balance Techies just because of the way that the hero works.
Do you think they did a good job making it like, okay, well, the cooldown's half, and the bombs do half damage, and they cost half mana, and so you can still, and now you can do unlimited. Do you think that was like what were they going for in Nahaz's mind? What were they going for there?
Honestly, that's one hero I don't even know the answer.
It's
I play
just
Techies, it's a hero that is intrinsically very difficult to balance because of its mechanic.
And you're just like, I don't know, like, don't make them limited, make them unlimited, half, I guess. It's not quadruple.
You have to. You not quadruple. Where'd you come with that?
I mean,
It's called a callback. That's good stuff.
Yeah, low-hanging fruit.
It's very difficult to balance Techies without introducing a mechanic where anytime you walk up his base steps, you just blow up.
I think Transformers need to be added to the game or something like that. You know, what I mean? Like they could withstand the bombs. They're made of alien alloy. What?
All right,
that's my job.
Sorry.
That's my job. Any other questions for Nahaz?
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I know it's legal here in Seattle, but calm down, brother. Really?
You have a question for Nahaz?
I got one here. Go for it. Top Gun on Betamax. That would be me. I'm wondering, for all of us 1, 2, 3K pub stars out there, what are the best statistical metrics that we can be looking at to improve our games?
Great question.
I really love that, and so there's a feature on Dota Buff. There's the meta tab on Dota Buff where you can look at the win percentages of different heroes in different skill brackets in different roles. But I mean, somebody, I think it was Toffee's maybe here in the background that said, you know, buy a TP made the
Who?
Yeah, some guy. But honestly,
morning show at 9:15. You guys catch it. It's good. It's real good. Morning show at 9:15.
So, strangely enough, I'm not even sure what happened at Manila. Some people out there on the interweb had got the idea that I had some kind of beef with Purge, and that's.
I could see it.
I
could see it.
It's actually rather ridiculous. I would not be playing Dota without Purge. Like when my brother-in-law, who's 14 years younger than me, first kind of introduced me to the game. I was like, what the hell is going on? This is embarrassing. I know nothing. And I stumbled across Purge's guides. And Purge's guides were some of the things that first gave me the confidence to be like, okay, well, I can at least understand the theory.
Have you had a drunken night with him yet where you're like, just thank you, and like, you made me what I am today. And I love you, man. I love you. And he's just like, YOLO, everybody. Like,
but that's the nice thing. It's kind of a meme among the Dota 2 talent that like that's how Purge responds to everything. He's like,
well, yeah, obviously, I'm perpetuating.
He's like,
it.
oh, that's great.
Yeah. Seems good, right?
Purge, will you have my babies?
But I mean,
sure.
there's been like 3, 4, 5 shots of scotch, and you're like, dude, look. That Shadow Demon you really took it another step. I mean, right? You've had nights.
Please
like
give
that.
Roland his fantasy. Please.
Yeah, just say it's true. Just say it's true.
I think everybody's had those nights with Purge. He's just like,
I haven't.
You can come at Purge with whatever, and he's just like, yeah.
I know. I met him in New York, and I was like, dude, thank you. Like, I watched all of them, and even the old ones, even though they weren't that relevant. And
he was like, who let this lapdog in here?
And he's like, can I see your badge? I'm not sure if you're even supposed to be in here. And I wasn't, which was the weird thing.
No, I honestly believe that like a supermodel could walk up to Purge and be like, you know what, you're the best looking guy I've ever seen. And he'd be like, well, I'll have to think about it. it's just Kevin, man. He's awesome.
He is awesome.
All right, we're probably got time for like one more question before we got
one more question.
Anybody got
and then
one
we'll
more?
do the close.
The Groody.
I am Groody.
Hello, I am Groody.
Yeah.
My question is, what do you think about the growth of Dota, specifically like the prize pool of TI? Is there any modeling that's been done about projections for things like that?
Well, obviously the growth has petered off a little bit this year. I think we're I think 20 million is obviously a lot of money. It's also unless we manage to grow our fan base and expand into markets that we haven't had much traction with, which I still think there's a possibility of doing. I think that's about as much as we're going to sustain right now, especially with the four major, with now 2, not 3 other majors during the year. At the same time, I also, and I've been saying this for a while, I think we also need to get past this idea that that having a bigger prize pool is defines us. I mean, how much money did Peyton Manning get for winning the Super Bowl? It doesn't matter because he won the Super Bowl. I can tell you now from knowing enough of obviously, look, the money is a big factor, and this is a dream for everybody. But at the end of the day, these players they're professionals. This is their craft, and it is really as important as anything else to them to be recognized as the masters of their craft. So to answer your question, where do I think growth is going? I still think Dota 2 and esports in general has an amazing amount of growth potential. I think Dota right now is at a point where we badly need new demographics to come into our audience. Like, this is why I've supported the show from the beginning. This is why I support a lot of other initiatives within the scene. We, as Dota players and as people that are into Dota, we have this wonderful pride and sense of identity that this is our game, and I don't want to give that up. At the same time, Overwatch is pretty good.
It's fun. It's fun.
But I also think we're at the point where we need to acknowledge that look at how the prize pool grew from TI3 to TI4 to TI5. It was amazing. We are not going to see that kind of growth continue unless we find ways to reach out beyond the player base that we have right now and to create the same kind of passion that we have in people that don't play the game right now. And you know what? Yes, that means that we're going to have to sacrifice some of our little mechanics. We're going to have to make the game more casual. We're going to have to talk about these dirty words that nobody wants to say. But I really do think this is my 73-year-old father can watch Dota and say, hey, you know what? That looks pretty cool. But he also asked me the question, okay, who's ahead right now? And I'm like, oh shit!
I took it upon myself.
It takes me like 5 minutes to answer that question, and
Yeah.
We need to at least improve the presentation of the game, right?
Which there have been some innovations at this TI
Yes.
with the whole Weatherman, Purge feel.
And he's doing a great job with it, and
Yeah.
it's something that I had talked with at other events in the past, and it never quite happened. I'm very happy that it finally did happen at this TI, and I think it's a model that a lot of other events should follow. But those are the kinds of things that I think we badly need to just make the game more presentable. I think we ought to have people that are watching not just the international. I think we ought to have people that are watching Pro Dota throughout the year that don't even necessarily play the game.
Absolutely.
There are
Casey,
plenty of people.
Is a perfect example.
Exactly. There are a whole lot of people, guys, that watch the NFL that don't go out in their backyards and play football.
Yeah. No.
God,
right?
Made that point a million times.
Yeah.
And Dota needs
Unless
to be the
you'd
same
like to
way.
play catch, Dad.
But it really is. It's an attitude. We are very proud of who we are in Dota, and I would never change that. But we also need to recognize, to keep growing, to really achieve the same kinds of things, stay on the path that we set for the last couple of years. there do need to be some changes.
How do you inspire people to do that? Because whenever we bring this topic up way too much, we have a review that's like, you guys would be a good Dota 2 podcast if you didn't talk about ESPN and shit like that. And it's like, what is there like a
They
good
use a
way to
more
summarize?
sexual euphemism for our relationship with mainstream media, but
sucking.
well, you know.
and I'm just like, it's money, and like more people can do jobs in esports. Don't you want that?
Guys, there's an
And then he ran back
old
to the
saying about
village.
horses and water and drinks. Honest, I'm a big believer in all you can do is go out there and produce a good product and do the best you can to bring other people around to your way of thinking, and it'll either happen or it won't. But I don't think there's any kind of magical switch that you turn. I wouldn't change the things about our community that make us so entrenched, because I wouldn't change the fact that the Dota community has a great deal of pride in the game. Yeah. But it is something that I think will change slowly over time.
So Casey asked this when she came on the show. I guess this was last week. She said she doesn't understand and she wants to be respectful. She said, "Is it the message that they're worried about? Do you think it's the message being changed? Our overall message that we're worried about being changed, and that's why we're like censorship? Yeah, censorship is. You listen to the show, right? I don't. I was on it. Though.
He was on that episode, but you know.
Do you think that that's the biggest issue for people? Where they're like, no, fuck that. We don't want ESPN. Like, get out of here.
I don't know. I think for a lot of people that there was for a very long time, and still in some circles there's a stigma associated with being a gamer, and we have fought and we've scrapped and we've clawed to get to the point that we're damn proud of being gamers. We're proud of that identity, and now we turn around and all
Are we proud to be gamers? Yeah.
Not really.
And so now we turn around.
I get it, proud.
And some of those same people, I'll use the politically correct term, that gave us shit about being gamers not so long ago, they're like, oh, hey, Counter-Strike's on CNN now. It might be cool. I can understand why many people's first inclination is not to be welcoming to the rest of these people. But at the same time, those people, they got money, and they can help us grow our game, and they can help us create a lot of opportunity for our players and our fans and the people in this community that have a hell of a lot of talent that want to make careers in this game. And yeah, you know what? If you can tell me that's the price of selling out, I'll sell out. Yeah.
Nahaz,
right.
everybody.
All right, one last question before we let you go. Who do you want to win TI, and who do you think's going to win TI?
Well, I was asked this earlier. I will say, if you go by the Dota that has been played so far, I think EG have played the highest level of Dota that we've seen at the tournament, and I think if you go by the absolute shellacking that they handed Newbie today,
yeah,
it's hard to pick against that team. In terms of who I want to win, and that's off the table. I would love to see SEA win its first TI. I think.
I agree.
Mixed
we've
results.
had.
All right.
I would just because I got to know MVP's team, and I wish March were still playing for him because he is a stud. But I got to know MVP's team last year in a couple events that I did, and they showed up and they were humble and they were classy and they just wanted to learn and get better. I would love to see those guys win. I'd love to see Jimmy win with TNC because it's Jimmy, and there's so many people out there that have dumped on that guy for so long, and he has been himself, and he's put his nose to the grindstone, and he's here with a very good team. And I think, my God, if you guys had been at Manila, I mean, that stadium, it shook. It just absolutely, on the first day, it vibrated. And
they bring better hype.
It's you know what? It's not just that though. I grew up in St. Louis, and I was a St. Louis Cardinal fan, but from the time I was in diapers. And we had a tradition in St. Louis that you cheer for the game, you cheer for great plays, even if it's if an opposing player hits a home run and if makes a great catch, even if it wins them the game, we cheer. And I was there when Ken Griffey Jr. hit his 500th home run on Father's Day. I was there with my dad, and the fan that caught the ball in St. Louis. His only request, he said, I will give you this ball. I just want to be there, and I want to hand it to his dad with him there, because Ken Griffey Sr. was at the game. That's like SEA fans at Manila, yes, the place was a nut house when Mineski was on the stage, which was awesome. But above all else, those fans cheered for great Dota. And when you look at the struggles that Execration and TNC had to go through to get here, I'd love to see those fans get a
lot of good stories, right? There's a lot of cool stories that can come out of this TI.
Well, the thing is, we are, again, it's corny, but we are blessed. Whatever team wins, it's going to be a great story.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see that region get there first.
Yeah. Awesome. Cyphus Bot on.
Okay, if you guys want to find Nahaz, he's at Nahaz Dota. Let's give Nahaz another round of applause for coming around.
Yeah.
And give yourselves a round of applause, because hell, that was awesome. You guys all showed up. To those listening at home, again, sorry for the recording. We're obviously not in the studio. We're at the Royal Gaming Cafe in Seattle. We might be here tomorrow night, depending on if we can talk Ursi and Proud into it, and playing a game here for Theorycraft Thursday, maybe?
Fuck you.
I'm sorry, Animal. Excuse me. Toffees. Tomorrow, 9:15 a.m. People can tune in to the morning show, yeah?
At 9:15 a.m. Stop by, catch me and Nahaz and Renessa and the other.
Twitch.tv
We got him fresh.
Join Dota Red. All right, folks. Remember to tune in for that.
We got the scoop. No, we release after you. Damn. Damn.
If you guys want to find us, of course, we're at .p_show on Twitter, defenseofthepatients.com, defenseofthepatients@gmail.com to email us. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, all your favorite podcast apps. And I think that the subreddit with Jay Gucci.
Oh my gosh, that poor soul. He handles it all.
That's the Defense of the Patient subreddit. That's right. Jay Gucci does that. Hit up our website to find the Discord link if you guys want to join us there on Discord. We've got a great community. Half of them are here, it feels like. It's awesome to see you guys.
Flub Dota.
That's what I'm getting.
Oh, you ruined
and
the
Proud.
You can find Flub at Flub Dota. With 2 fucking B's. Don't say you'll get someone else. It'll be awkward.
The Animal made it on the show. Hey, I'm the guy that talks about myself all the time.
All right.
So.
Until next time, this is Cyphus for Roland and Nahaz saying good luck and Godspeed.